It is almost officially summer, and I still have 4 books on my spring TBR. It's time to focus. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Liz, and in today's video we are going to be seeing if I can finish my spring TBR in a week. I am so incredibly excited for summer and summer reading. I just released my summer TBR video. I am itching to read those books, but I feel like I need to finish my spring TBR, or at least like almost finish it, in order to feel accomplished and ready to move on. I don't want to feel guilty. I had a very small spring TBR. It was not hard to get through, but for whatever reason I have been putting this off for a while. I just keep getting distracted by new releases and other books, and it's a problem. I'm hoping by filming this video it will motivate me. I've done this type of video before for other seasons, and sometimes it affects my rating of books because I feel forced to read them. So no, I'm not going to fall into those same patterns. If there's a book that I genuinely just do not want to read and I'm not feeling up to it, I'm not going to force myself. There are a few books left on my spring TBR that I actually think I could probably whip through. I have about 4 of them. The first one that I've decided to pick up and start reading is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. Ava Reid wrote The Wolf and the Woodsman, which I read last fall. I can't remember what my rating was, but I think I was like somewhere in the 3-star range. She has very magical and atmospheric writing, and I've heard amazing things about this book. Its second book, I do believe, is coming out soon. I have the arc for it. I think it's A Theory in Drowning? A Theory in Dreaming. I will put the release date somewhere on the screen. I'm not quite sure when that's supposed to come out, but I think it's soon. I would really love to have the first book read, so that way when the second book comes out, I can go ahead and start that one. This story follows Effie, who is a student at this college, and she is actually, I think, in the architecture school, so she's studying to be an architect. There's also a literature college, which I think she would prefer to be in, but it's kind of historical fantasy. It is set back in time where women were not accepted in certain colleges. She has always been a fan of fairy tales, and she has this favorite author who passed away. This really cool opportunity comes up where an architecture college student can go to his manor. I think they're trying to help like refurbish it or redesign his manor for his family. And obviously, him being her favorite author, she wants to go. I don't know much else like besides that I'm only like a handful of pages in, 22 pages into this book. Let's take a look at how beautiful this special edition is. I got the one that has the book sprayed edges, but look how pretty this book is naked. Are you joking? Not that the dust jacket wasn't equally beautiful. This is stunning. So I'm not very far in the plot, obviously, but I do know from reading the dust jacket that when she gets to the manor, she meets a literature student named Preston, and he's actually there to prove that this author was a fraud. Very different and opposite motives that they both have being at this manor. Also, the setting sounds beautiful. It's like on the cliffs. I'm picturing like Maine, or I'm picturing like one of the North Coast the North Coast states. I will give more updates as I get further into it. Feeling very, very motivated to read this book. Hopefully that continues. I am now 50 pages into this book, and I already have so many questions about our main character and her backstory. She takes these pills because apparently she has these episodes where she like hallucinates things that aren't there or aren't real. I'm just really curious about what's going on with her. She's a very mysterious character. I feel like she has a lot that she hasn't uncovered yet, which I know I'm only 50 pages in, so clearly I'm not gonna know everything yet, but I'm already very intrigued about her. That was the thought that just came to my head, and I had to share it. You're welcome. It is the next day. I am like, I want to say 40% into A Study in Drowning, and I'm really enjoying it. This whole week has been very rainy and gloomy. This is honestly, I think, the perfect book for rainy weather. It's very atmospheric. There's the ocean, and they're talking about there being like this second drowning, which is basically like the ocean, the tide is rising and it's kind of crumbling and destroying the town and slowly just like drowning out everything. I think all I've said so far is that I'm very curious about the main character's background. I still am really curious about her background. I'm also really curious about our guy main character. His name is Preston. They've kind of like struck up this truce. If she helps him look through the blueprints of this manor and find this author's works, like his diary and that kind of stuff, then he will add her name to his project, his thesis paper that he's working on. And hopefully this will help her get into the literature college. So they kind of have like a mutual agreement right now. She doesn't believe that the author is a fraud, but she's trying to help prove that he isn't, kind of, in a way. And she's been taking her pills, but yet she's still seeing these very creepy, weird things happening around the estate. I don't know if she's just an unreliable narrator or if like this kind of stuff is actually happening. Like if there is some actual old ancient magic that is happening on this land that they're staying on. Also, the son of this author that passed away, who invited them there, he is so suspicious. I do not like him at all. He's giving off really like creepy prude lighter vibes, and I'm not loving it for our main character. I feel very immersed in the story, especially with the weather. I feel like this is the perfect gloomy weather book. I think this is just gonna be a duology. So far enjoying finishing up my spring TBR, so hopefully this motivation continues with the rest of my spring TBR. I am getting really close to finishing A Study in Drowning. I want to say like 150 pages left maybe. I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving how atmospheric this book is. One thing that has been really interesting is having an unreliable narrator. I feel like I don't know exactly what is real and what's not real yet. That kind of like adds and heightens the mystery that you're trying to solve during this book. I'm really excited to get to the end of this book and finally get some answers. I think I'm gonna try to chug through this tonight, finish it, so that way I can share my thoughts and hopefully start a new book tomorrow. Just finished A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. I feel like I have my thoughts in order, surprisingly, even though I just finished this book. I am settling on a 4 stars. I really loved the setting and atmosphere of this book. It honestly felt very immersive. I felt like I was in the story and I was with the characters, and I could feel just like the chill. They're on this like cliff and it's ominous and everything. Another thing is I really love the message behind this book. It's set in a time when women are not very prominent in college. Women just are not respected at all. I really loved watching our main character battle some of her own trauma and inner demons throughout the story, and finally standing up for herself, finally believing in herself, kind of paving the way for other women. I also really loved Preston, our guy character in this book. He is a skeptic from page 1, but he is fighting for the truth. He tells Effie that he cares more about the truth than being right. He's always shown her respect. He's always treated her with respect and believed in her, supported her, and I feel like he was just so progressive and ahead of his time compared to the other men in this book. Men are portrayed as pigs and disgusting perverts in this book. Preston is literally the only man who actually was a decent human. It was also really interesting having an unreliable narrator. The whole time you're just wondering what is real, what is fake. Truly leaves you guessing until the very end, and I thought that was really interesting, and I loved that. And I also really loved the ending. I thought the ending was done very beautifully. I'm really excited to read the second book. I already pre-ordered the next one. Those are kind of my final thoughts for this book. 4 stars, highly recommend it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and start my next spring TBR book before I go to bed tonight. I don't know how much I'm gonna read because I'm actually really tired right now. I'm gonna try to at least start it, and then I'll update you guys in the morning. Good morning. So I actually have some special guests this morning. I bought a car seat for Milo and Murphy because their carrier is just too small for both of them. I honestly could get a larger carrier, but I hate having them stay in their carrier for our drives. And then sometimes when I go visit my parents, it's a pretty long drive. They are buckled in with their harness, so technically he can't go anywhere. This will just be a better solution because all they do is just meow constantly, and I like scratch at their carrier, so this will be so much better. It'll give me some peace of mind as well. This is actually their first time being in it, and I'm gonna take them for a little test drive this morning. Milo's already loving it. Murphy's unsure. Figures. But I did want to go ahead and discuss the next book that I'm going to be reading from my spring TBR. The next book is a romance book, and that is Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. This is the author of Out on a Limb, which I absolutely loved that book. It was so good. It's one of my favorite romance books. This is the same world. This is our main character from Out on a Limb's best friend, who in that book, she's already married and she married her childhood sweetheart. This book is going to follow that couple. It takes place after Out on a Limb, but it's showing, I feel like, a very realistic depiction of romance and love and relationships, because it's like after the happily ever after. This couple has been married for years. They've been together for over half of their lives. Like, they are childhood sweethearts. Like I said, you've been with them so long before you even were able to figure out who you as a person are. You've been with this person and grown with this this person. I think it's going to just be a really beautiful and interesting story to read about. Different type of romance than I'm used to. Usually romance books, it's them first meeting or it's them falling in love. And in this case, they're already in love. And this is after the happily ever after. I think this story, it's gonna discuss how both of them are wanting more independence, but still in love with each other, just wanting to find themselves. I believe they end up going to like a wilderness retreat or something along those lines to try to reconnect and find themselves again. I've heard mixed reviews on this online, but I think going into it knowing that this isn't going to be your typical romance will be very helpful. I really love this author's writing style. It's very bingeable. I only got 20 pages in last night before I passed out. I'm hoping to read more of this today. The boys are settling in more to their car seat. Look how cute they are, my sons. We're gonna go on a little drive to test out and make sure these harnesses and the buckles and everything are working well, and that I can figure out if I need to adjust the straps, if I need to give them less slack and all the things. Have a nice little drive together. Good morning. It is the next morning and I'm a little bit further into Out of the Woods. I'm about page 80 at the moment, but already I have some thoughts on how this book was written. Every other chapter, it flips back and forth between present timeline when they're having issues with their marriage and then past timeline, like through the years of them dating and when they first met and all that kind of stuff. I do like seeing that because the chapters with them falling in love, like that's what I'm used to. That's what's comfortable when it comes to a romance. It's nice having that in between the heavier chapters where they're arguing or trying to communicate and figure out their marriage. But the part that I'm at, they are at this wilderness retreat. It's kind of like a couples counseling therapy thing. And you're supposed to go for a week. And after the week, a lot of couples come back and they feel reconnected. And it's like called Reignite is the name of this wilderness retreat. And both of our main characters, they are not outdoors people at all. So I'm really looking forward to the scenes of them in this retreat. I think that's going to be really funny and that'll kind of break up some of the tension, hopefully at least. Our main character, she is kind of going through a rut. She doesn't work. She doesn't do anything. Her husband is who's the breadwinner. He's the one who works. He's the one who makes all their money and they're very well off. They're very wealthy. So she doesn't have to work, but she's feeling kind of lost. Like what is her purpose? Like she doesn't have any accomplishments. First of all, she should have come to him and talked to him about this way sooner instead of letting this blow up. And I know whenever you're in a rut, like you don't want to, but if they've been in a relationship, they've been together for like 17 years. In my head, it's like you have to have better communication than that. I just feel like she's being very mean to her husband. Oh my gosh. I feel like she is not being very kind to her husband. I understand where she's coming from. Like I get it. She's trying to find her purpose and everything and she's trying to communicate that, but she's just not doing it very well. I also feel like he needs to understand and realize like he needs to see where she's coming from. And it just feels like if you're in a relationship for 17 years, you would have a little bit better communication than that. I don't know. I haven't been in a relationship for 17 years, so I don't personally have experience with this, but this is just my observation. I'm feeling really bad for our male main character. I feel like he is trying his best, but also he is not great at communicating either. That's really all I have to say at the moment. Like I said, I'm only 80 pages in, so it's not like I am really far into the story. Today, I have some editing I'm going to be doing. I have some laundry and some other like random errands. I need to get groceries, those kinds of things, but I'm going to try to read a good chunk of this book today. I really want to get far into it. If I could finish this today, that would be amazing. But since I have so many other things going on, we'll see. I'm going to try to read this in between things to break up the not so fun part of today, which is all of my errands and adultish things. I will try to keep you guys updated when I get further in. Good morning. Sure, I finished Out of the Woods last night. I think for my rating, I'm somewhere in a 3-star to 4-star range. I feel like I'm maybe at like a 3.5, 3.75, somewhere in there. I actually really enjoyed this story and I enjoyed this couple. I thought it was a really interesting take on a romance, getting to see a couple that's been together for so long, for over half of their lives, and watching them try to navigate growing individually, but also together at the same time. I really, really loved their communication later on in the book. I thought at the beginning they lacked the communication that I would expect from a couple that's been together for almost 20 years. But after they both did some self-growth, talked to others, and had kind of like a therapeutic experience, they did a lot better in the communication department. And I thought it was really, really sweet getting to see a couple that's just very comfortable with each other. There wasn't really any awkwardness. It was just them living and loving and all the things. I actually got a little emotional towards the end of this book. Them being on this like retreat, it had a lot of funny moments. I would definitely recommend this for the spring or summertime. I think it's the perfect time to read this kind of book. That's kind of all I have to say about this book. And then I am starting my next book today, and that is gonna be None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I am in the mood for a mystery thriller. This one I have been wanting to read for so long now. I have read a lot of Lisa Jewell's books and I've enjoyed almost all of them, honestly. I think you either love or you hate her writing, depending on what kind of mystery thrillers you enjoy. Hers are a little bit more darker and more psychological than your average mystery thriller, I would say. She always does such a great job with her twists. I feel like the endings of her books are always great. I just really enjoy her writing style in general. This one I don't know much about, except that it's about a podcaster and she meets a woman who has the same birthday as her or something like that. And that's kind of all I really know. I kind of want to keep it that way just because I know that a lot of people say that there's a really great twist in this book. So I kind of want to just like go in sort of blind. So that way maybe the twist hits a little harder. I'm going to try to start this today, maybe share some thoughts tonight if I have any. I need to run to the grocery store real quick and then come back and do some editing, but then I have a date with this book. Okay, so let me angle a little bit better. I am now 100 pages into None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, and I have some thoughts. So I feel like this is my favorite book by Lisa Jewell so far. Already, and I'm only 100 pages in. Already, I am so intrigued by this story and so curious, and I've been theorizing the entire time trying to figure out what's going on. So this story follows a podcaster and then another woman who is her birthday twin. So they both were born on the exact same day in the exact same hospital. And the story starts out with them meeting in this bar. Both of them are celebrating their 45th birthday and they get to talking, and then they end up running into each other again. And the woman who's not a podcaster, she kind of comes up with this idea. She feels like she's in a rut, and she tells the podcaster that she wants to be featured on her podcast of her trying to break out of this rut. And she kind of dangles like this juicy information. She's like, ooh, I have a lot of trauma. I have a lot of problems in my marriage and in my life, and I want to talk about them and then show you how I'm going to overcome these things and stuff. So it's already suspicious from the start. So this woman's name is Josie, and then Alex is the podcaster. Also, in between chapters, scattered throughout, you're getting snippets of the podcast. And it's like there's this documentary going on about the podcast. There's been these deaths surrounding this podcast. So from the beginning, you know this is going to turn sideways. Like, you know something is wrong and something's going to go wrong. And you're just basically waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm getting a lot of creepy vibes from Josie. And she's already shared with Alex that she and her husband met when she was 15 and he was 42. Yeah, I would say you had problems in your marriage. You were groomed, and he is a pedophile. So much is going on. So much is happening in this book already. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen. Who is in the wrong? I'm just like, everyone is a suspect at this point. Mini rant over. I'm going to continue reading, and I'm really excited to see what happens in the story. Okay, bye. Last night, I finished None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, and I have so many thoughts on this book. I already shared kind of what the story was about and some initial thoughts whenever I was like a little over 100 pages in, but this book was so dark and twisty until the very, very end. I was left constantly trying to figure out what this twist was going to be. There's also a bonus chapter in this edition, which I kind of almost wish I didn't have the bonus chapter, because the way it leaves off, it leaves you feeling like you get to decide what the actual truth was. The bonus chapter kind of gives you that answer, which if like you can't end a story without knowing the absolute truth, then obviously it's helpful. It was hard because there were barely any good characters in this book. I feel like almost everyone was a little bit guilty. Like the entire time, I never was like, oh, I love this character. There's still just so many layers to every single character within this book. It was so dark, so psychological. Talks about like child abuse and grooming. So if that's triggering for you, probably should not read this book because it talks about that very heavily. But also at the same time, like reading about it, yes, it was kind of icky, but like I didn't want to stop reading. Lisa Jewell did it in a very sensitive way to where I'm not like grossed out and like, I have to stop and put this book down. But I was hooked. I was hooked constantly. I really liked the writing format and the way she did this like podcast documentary, like a true crime podcast in between chapters, because the entire time you're getting interviews from people surrounding the main characters in this book and you're constantly trying to just like put together all the pieces of what like actually went down. I will just say like the last 50 pages were just a wild ride. Really, really enjoyed it. I think I'm settling on a 4.25 stars. This was a really fun book to end off on. Now I do technically have one more book on my spring TBR, but I have decided I'm not going to read it until the fall because the second book comes out either in the fall or winter. So I don't feel like I have any rush to read this book yet. And that is Anathema by Carrie Lake. I've heard amazing, amazing things about this. A lot of people say they found a new book boyfriend when they read this book. I'm not going to force myself to read this just to finish my spring TBR. I think if I had read this at the beginning of the spring, I would have been fine. But since it's like now basically summer, I am not in the headspace to be reading anything that's like dark and gloomy. Like I'm kind of craving my summer reads. I'm not going to force myself to read this one. So this is the only book on my spring TBR that I did not get to this season. And I'm okay with that. I'm actually pretty content with that. So that is going to be the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this was fun for you to watch me try to crank out my spring TBR. This was very motivating for me and I'm really glad that I chose to do this video. And I'm really, really excited for where this season is going. I'm going to start reading my summer reads now and I'm so, so excited because I have a trip coming up. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.